Hi, to those who are in the room, please, first of all, good morning and welcome. Please go to the this pollev.com link, right, where we set up a poll while we wait for more people to show up. We'll start probably at about 5 minutes after 10:30, right? So we have a few more minutes. So there's
All right, so good morning to all. So my name is Vincent, right? So I'm your host for the day. All right, I think we might want to give about like 2 or 3 more minutes. We have to wait for some of our participants to join the session. So meanwhile, please go on to this poll everywhere, this link that you see on above the slide, pollev.com. Then you just go on there. So what this what this survey is all about is to really understand what do you want to get out from this webinar, so that we can try our best to address your concern. So feel free to go on to this link. So I believe the link is shared in the chat. So if you look at your chat, you should be able to see the link. You can click on it and enter your name. You can just feel free, right? Don't worry, they will not show your name. Okay, so you can just go ahead and do it. Okay, this is really for us to understand what is your concern. Okay, good, thanks. I think this is great. Career pathway. So yeah, so you are in the right place, right? So this is so for our webinar, we have invited three alumni, our very successful alumni, to join our webinar. Okay, so I think this will be a great session for people who really wants to know the career prospects. Okay, and okay, so what can you expect taking this course? Well, I think we will be answering this question during the first segment of the day, right? So during the first segment, we'll be talking more on what is material science, what do we have to offer to our students, not only during the undergrad studies, but also what are the support that we can offer our students once they graduate, right? That's great. Course content, yep. So course content, yes, we will share it during our first segment, right? And student life, we have invited some of our current MSc students. So our undergrads will be here to share with you all their experience, their student experience, their life here. And feel free, we have a Q&A session after that. Feel free to ask. Career pathway, yes, I think it's very important that we have to consider what are the career pathway, right? I think that's very important. Let's just wait for a while more. For those who just joined in, please, what we are doing right now, right, is a simple kind of a understanding of what you want to get out from this webinar. So please feel free. If you're not familiar with this platform, all you need to do is just go to your browser, type in polleverywhere.com. If you see my cursor, right, you can go in and then just type your questions, right? So we just want to see what are the things that you need to you want to hear, right? So that we can emphasize more on that, right? And I think in the chat box, if you look at your chat box, the links is there, so you can just click on it. All right, career prospects. I see that we have a lot of career prospects, which is I think very fair questions that all students will want to know. Right, so stay with us. We have three very successful alumni coming in to share their experience. So that will be during the third segment of this webinar. All right. All right, internship opportunities, yes, we have a few. I think it will be shared during our first segment, so no worries about that. Let me go through specialization. Yes, specialization. We will be talking about that. That's a good point. What will you learn? We also share it during our first segment. So stay with us. Okay, stay with us. Why is it relevant? Yeah. I guess we will be talking more about that, like during the Q&A session. I think it's easier for us to communicate and really have the different panelists to come together and discuss why is it relevant, why material science can be relevant to our current industries, right? Research. Okay, so I think that's that. A couple more minutes. Let's just wait for a couple more minutes. Okay. Click on it. Okay. All right. So how can it be related to other fields of engineering and science? So material science is actually a very interesting branch of science, I guess. Or I mean, if you prefer to look at it as science, you can. And if you prefer to look at it as engineering, you can too, because we encompass both science and engineering. I think that's usually what people say is that science is more for the dreamers. People dream some theory up, but engineers are those who really make it happen. So we are people who, so material science and engineering is basically, for us, we are dreamers, but at the same time, we are people who make it happen, right? So that's the beauty of what material science and engineering is all about, by combining science and engineering. So materials is really part of how the fundamental of most, or rather all, engineering and sciences. So if you look at it in the universe, any application you're talking about, whether is it biomedical or mechanical engineering or chemical engineering or anything, right? So you will see that eventually you still have to go down to the most basic fundamental topic, which is materials, right? So this is I think later on we'll share a bit more about how can it be related to other science and engineering. Lab-based, well, we are trying to move towards more of a hands-on kind of a environment, a learning environment for our students. I think that will be very beneficial to our students. And I think, I mean, not only for during the curriculum, our official curriculum, we have a few lab modules. We do offer a lot of chances for our students to continue from their research passion. So yeah. All right, so let's not waste too much time. I actually can't see my time. All right, so 10:40. Let's start. I guess we have noted down all these the things that you want to learn, right? And we'll take note of this during the presentation. All right. So stop share. All right. Oops. All right. Okay, let's start. So my name is Vincent. Okay, I'm a teaching staff at Material Science and Engineering, NUS. So in short, I'll just refer Material Science and Engineering as MSE. Okay, so it's easier. So a very first thing that I want to do is to welcome all of you here with us on a beautiful Sunday. I know it's a Sunday, but I really appreciate all of y'all here with us, right? So what we are going to do for this segment is this, right? So the agenda for today, we were planning to do it slightly earlier, but it seems like we are still waiting a few participants to join us. So the first segment, I'll just put it as 3 segments, right? So the first segments, we'll be talking more of like, what is material science and how can we impact the world, right? And then together with this segment, we will embed a materials challenge quiz. Don't worry, it's just a fun quiz, right? So for the winners, of course, you get a chance to win some attractive cash voucher, right? So please stay with us for the first segment. Then we'll move on to the second segment, right? So we have this undergrad sharing session. So if you're interested to understand why some of our students, why do they want to join material science, or about student life and their research opportunity, then please, this is the segment that you want to be with. Okay, then lastly, we'll end off with our third segment, which is the alumni sharing session. I think this is very important. We have two startup founders, okay, who graduated from material science. They'll be here to share with us their experience. Okay, please stay with us because I think that is very important. Then together with that, we will have Ask Me Anything session. So feel free, ask us anything, right? And last but not least is there will be a raffle. So this is just a additional thing, right? So there will be a raffle at the end of the session. So what the winner will get is just some cash voucher. Okay. All right. So I think without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker for the day. So Prof. Benjamin is our associate professor and deputy head in material science and engineering at NUS. Okay, so he's a prestigious award winner, recipients of many prestigious fellowships and awards, right? So most recently is the National Research Foundation Fellowship, right? So he obtained his PhD at Stanford University, and he's now associate prof here. Then of course he's also a Singapore Stanford Biodesign Global Invention Postdoctorate Fellow and inventor of electronic skin sensors. Okay, then he was awarded the MIT TR35 Innovator. And if you want to know more about him, you can look him up on his website. So with that, let me welcome Prof. Benjamin. Prof. Benjamin, please.
Hi, thank you, Vincent, for the kind introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, please raise your hand or any one of you raise your hand so that I know that the sound is reaching. Is going through the Ethernet. Okay, great. Thank you for the hands. All right, so I shall start my session. All right, so very warm welcome. I'm really delighted that all of you chose to join us on a Sunday morning. Just to make sure that my screen is working, can you just double confirm is nothing is blocking your screen and there's no weird pixels? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So material science and engineering is fundamental, as Vincent has said, to almost all forms of engineering and technologies that we are currently used to using, right? And I think that a career in MSc with a degree from NUS MSc will help materialize your future. And if you look at the past history, right, for very long time frames, materials have shaped society and our technology. We started by learning about basic materials that nature has given us, stones, to make very basic tools to build shelters and homes. Thereafter, we started to learn more and more about what kind of materials and what kind of elements exist, and we're able to then process all these materials into something that is a lot more useful and also more valuable, right? When you can turn a raw material into something that can function and behave in a useful manner for society, you add significant value not just to society but also to yourself, because you will be participating in this exchange of materials processing technology and innovation. So if you look at how humans have progressed, we've gone from Stone Age to Bronze Age, Iron Age. All these eras are named after materials, because every new material that's discovered can change how technology progresses for many decades after. Right? So material science and engineering is really a very special discipline that can allow you to be part of the future, right? And right now, we have gotten extremely good at making nanotechnology and also biology. And in fact, in material science, we also cover significant amounts of biology, right? For example, probably all of us today have gotten a vaccine. Probably 80% or more are what we call mRNA vaccines. And these vaccines really work because we have figured out how to deliver these proteins into the cells by using nano engineering technology, right, by using materials that can encapsulate and protect this mRNA and deliver them into cells. And all these can be learned in our courses. And also we have the right kind of equipment and tools for you to see these materials at the nano and even atomic scale. So in our curriculum, you will gain a lot of knowledge that are crucial and that powers major industries that are in the future. And Vincent mentioned material science, is a combination of both science and engineering. So if you're very interested in physics, or you love chemistry and you don't want to do anything with physics, or you just want to do biology, or you want to be a medical doctor, material science will combine all this information for you, condense it, and then after that, we'll teach you how you can apply the engineering principles to use the right materials for the kinds of application that you're envisioning, right? Whether it's your future career or whether you want to invent something. For example, if you want to invent an AI algorithm to discover new materials, you will learn about this in our class. If you want to invent or learn about how we can use polymers or chemistry to make wound dressings or to make healthcare technologies better, you will learn in our modules. And of course, there's also the aspect of sustainability, right? We have very strong research and faculty in green technologies, agricultural technologies, and even agricultural technologies for space environments. And of course, robotics and some of the advanced semiconductor materials and many more, right? So MSE is really a very exciting curriculum and degree program. In fact, because of these broad and diverse knowledge, our graduates are highly sought after and can enter many of the high growth industries such as semiconductor industry, the AI industry, the green technology industry, and also biomedical industries, right? And our graduates have worked in different companies across from semiconductor like Micron to technology companies like Google, Facebook is also now called Meta, engineering companies like ST Engineering, research, A-Star, biomedical companies, consumer technology companies, P&G, Johnson & Johnson, and also some of the national agencies like NEA, for if you're interested in sort of green technologies. So in fact, we are also the first university department to actually have a Nobel Prize winner to join a department in engineering in Singapore, right? We have Sir Konstantin Novoselov. We call him Kostya for short, and he joined MSE and not a science, and not a science department, because he feels that the ability to engineer new applications from scientific knowledge is critical to the future of technology and society. And so, he is working alongside many of our faculty, and you will be able to attend some of his classes that he teaches, or even work in a research project with him. So we have many specializations. Many of you expressed some questions about what we will actually learn. So we have divided our curriculum as you develop some of the basic fundamental knowledge and going to third year and fourth year, you can start to specialize, and you'll specialize in biomedical applications. So you will learn information about materials interfaces, biomedical materials. In AI, you will learn about deep learning methods. You will learn how you can use AI to discover new materials, and also big data analysis. If you love chemistry, polymers and soft materials is the specialization you can consider, right, where you learn about advanced polymer chemistry and also some of the applications that we use these new polymers for. Nanotechnology is the mainstay of all microelectronics industry, right? As you probably heard in the news, the semiconductor industry is undergoing a boom time because of the crunch in the semiconductor chips, right? And right now, many big companies like NVIDIA, TSMC, Global Foundries, all of them are looking for new ways to process semiconductor materials or even use new materials like graphene. And you learn about this in this specialization in nanotechnology. You learn about 2D materials like graphene. You also learn about how we actually process them for use in Internet of Things devices. So without further ado, let me pass the time over to Vincent, where he will have a very fun game for all of us to play. So you can actually try to put your MSE knowledge to good use. All right, Vincent, please.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Let me find the slides. Hey. Okay. Hang on.
I'd just like to add that we have very attractive prizes to be won for this quiz and game, as well as at the end of this session, the morning session, we will have a lucky draw for participants who are with us. So please stay around. Very attractive prizes. I think we might be the only department that is doing games. So also invite your friends if they have interest to learn more about us to this webinar. All right, Vincent, go ahead.
All right, so thanks, Ben. So let's do this part. So this is the materials quiz challenge. So the purpose of having this is to really to show you what we have to offer as material science and engineering department. Like all the knowledge that you will gain, probably you can use it to solve some of the questions that we will be showing you this time around. So I think, could I please ask everyone to join us using this poll everywhere link. So all you need to do simply, right, just to copy and paste this link into your browser. Could be Chrome browser, Firefox, whatever it is. Just copy and paste the polleverywhere.com/Li V320. Put it there. Please enter your name. I think that will help us to identify who is the winner, right? So this is a competition, rather, yeah. So the speed counts. So make sure you answer the question as fast as you can. But of course, accuracy is the most important one. All right. So let's just wait for about 1 minute before we start off this. So make sure everyone can join. If you can't, please reach out to us, right? Just reach out to us. Okay, while we are trying to set up, okay, so I guess we should start in this case. All right, let's not waste too much time. Let's start. All right, very first question. Okay, so the first question is, which of the following materials is the smallest? I think here there might be some very interesting argument that you want to bring up, but here we go. So there are 4 options. Please choose the correct answer. Okay, you have 30 seconds, right? So if you don't key your answer, then you're not in the you're losing out, right? Just a very fun quiz, okay? All right, I think that's it. No more answers. Okay, so the answer is quantum dots. So that's great, actually. Everyone got it right. So just to give you a perspective, if you look at how the different materials are, the sizes across the chart, you see that the quantum dots is about 3 nanometers or even smaller than that. So the virus that we are now trying to get rid of is about 60 nanometers. Then this is a the polystyrene microsphere, 400 nanometers, and silica, which is commonly known as sand, about 2 millimeters, right? So great. That's great. We have a few people in the lead. That's awesome. Okay, second question. Which of the following materials is the best thermal conductor? All right. So you have 4 options, same thing. So this may be a trick question, right? I think we have 10, 11. Okay, you have 12 participants. Cool. All right, we are not accepting any answers, any more answers. We have 12, that's great. All right, we have a bit of a mix back here. Okay, so I think more people are thinking it's graphene, I think, and steel and diamond, but no one choose graphite. Okay, that's actually interesting. So this is the scale of how the thermal conductivity scale. Okay, so at the very bottom is steel, right? And then we have diamond, graphite, and of course we all know that graphite, if you exfoliate it, simply is just a 2D material, which is graphene, which we all know. So of course, the fun fact here is that you know that I think Ben was mentioning this, that the inventor of graphene is currently now with material science at NUS. So if you're interested to know why graphene can do such a high thermal conductivity, I think you can just drop down by his office and you can maybe discuss with him face to face, right? I think that will be fun. So the answer is graphene, sorry. Okay, good, excellent. So this is the third question is a bit of a fun question, I guess. So this question is regarding shape memory materials. So this is one of the materials that we will be learning in our course. Let me just off this song. So what happens is that shape memory materials are materials that can return to its original shape when it's being exposed to certain temperature, right? So one example here that they are going to put in is a wire, right? So what they do is that they firstly distort or deform the wire into an odd shape, right? Then what happens is that when this material touches something hot like this, 60 degrees Celsius water bath, it returns to its original shape, right? So that's pretty cool. So the question comes, now he's going to use a shape memory polymer, which is basically the same idea. So when it's cool, it's hard. But when it's hot, then it will be flowy. You see, you can move, it's flexible, right? Then you can start to stretch it. All right. So the question comes. Oops. So the question comes, what do you think will happen to the stretch material when it is immersed back into the hot water? Okay. So what do you think will happen once we put back the deformed material into the hot water? Hey, you're left with 15 seconds. All right, that's it. So the answer is restore back to its original shape. I think that's pretty straightforward, right? Right, let me just show you how it will look like when that happens. Okay, let me just get to the right place, right? So what happens is that when they put in this deformed polymer, it just returns to its original shape. Pretty cool, isn't it? So you get to learn all the theory behind this, and of course, you will get a chance to work on such a material, right? So that's the, oops, that's that. Right, good. We have someone leading the pack now. That's great, right? So this question is something quite interesting, I guess. So I'm pretty sure you all have learned about soap bubbles, the old days. So soap bubbles can be used as a liquid membrane for filtering particles. So which is the correct answer? It's a bit long, so you might want to take some time to read. I think this is something that you can do at home if you want to. You can try it out. Just need a detergent, get a soap bubble, and you can try it out for yourself. Right? Okay, cool. So Yes, this is a bit difficult for us to understand, but here is basically the idea of having a surface tension that can prevent heavier particles, to prevent the smaller particles from filtering, and then we have the heavier particles that can pass through. So here I'll just show you a quick demonstration of one of the research that is being done. You can see that this here is a loop, it's a metal loop where you have a soap bubble, right? So you can blow a bubble here. So what they are doing, right, is to release some of the small particles, and you have a big one like this. So you can see this big one, it can go through it very cleanly, but the small one can't. And the soap bubble is still intact. So this is a very interesting phenomenon that you will learn in one of our modules as well. Okay, I think we do not have much time. I need to move on quick. All right, fish drying. So no coffee bean, you need to dry it up before you store it. Okay, I'm not sure whether you heard of it before, but the idea of fish drying is simply to sublimate ice, making ice to vapor. So to escape this intermediate phase, which is water. So we are going to introduce a concept which is water phase diagram, which is something that we will learn here, and it's pretty interesting. So if you look at the water phase diagram, how can we achieve ice to water vapor without hitting the water stage? If you look at the two axes, right, it's a bit difficult, no worries, okay, but it's actually quite a simple concept if you know how to read the phase diagram. Okay, cool, that's it. All right, I think most of you know this is the low temperature, low pressure. Why? It's because if you look at this, you know that in order to get from ice to water vapor, and this is the point where you get, this is the region, right, where you get ice to water vapor. If you go somewhere above this, somewhere at room temperature, at room pressure, then you have the common 0 degrees ice and then 100 degrees Celsius water vapor, right? Then last two questions, okay, last two questions, bear with me. So the second question is how can material science be applied to medicine development, okay, for cancer treatment? So this is a very interesting idea, because most people will probably think that, okay, I think to develop medicine, most likely I need to be in medicine or pharmacy, right? Or even like bioengineering. But the truth here is that if you look at it at a very fundamental, you need to design the material that can encapsulate this the drug, and that will help to target or something, right? I'm not sure, I can't say the answer. All right, cool. Yeah, I think when you see all of the above, it's always all of the above. So this is quite interesting, because material science is so diverse that it can offer us a few ways that are very crucial in medical development. Okay, I'm not going to go too much. Okay, we have a person in front, right? So the last question here is knee prosthesis. I think most of you should understand that when you get older, the kneecap doesn't work that well. You need a plastic spacer, right? So this is the image that you see. So the plastic spacer is in between the femoral component and the tibia component. So if you are the material engineer, you want to design the plastic spacer, what would you need to consider? What's the most important thing, right, that you need to consider? Okay, cool. So good wear resistant. I think that's pretty straightforward, because you have two things rubbing onto that. You do not want to have it to wear off so easily, because the wearing off of the debris can trigger immune response, right? So this is something you will learn in our course as well. Okay, congratulations, Yue Heng. So could you please, the winner, Yue Heng, can you please email us at askmse@nus.edu.sg? Okay, you please email us at that. We'll send you the information regarding how to collect the cash voucher. Okay, thank you. So I think that's it for me. But I'll pass back the time to Ben. Okay, thanks,
Right,
Ben.
Great, thank you, Vincent. I hope everyone enjoyed that mini game that we have. Okay, so I'll go a bit more into the details of the course curriculum and some of the careers our students have achieved after they graduate. So in terms of teaching, right, we have a very strong teaching team, and in fact, one of our faculty is an ex-president of NUS, right, and also of course we have a Nobel laureate, and many of the supporting staff and faculty, they're all in they're all experts in their different domains, and you have a lot of guidance from them. In fact, we have a very strong mentorship program as well. In terms of career opportunities, we have our students, go to different industries. Like you will hear from Jeremy Ko, for example. Dr. Jeremy Ko is ST Kinetics, and he's going to share his experience, right, graduating from MSE. We have entrepreneurs like Vishnu. He'll talk about, how MSE has shaped his thinking, and even give him ideas and inspiration for his startup, right? We have Satak, who's share his current student. He will share his experience, and of course, some of our students, if you like research, you'll go to some of the top universities like MIT or Stanford, because our MSE department is one of the top departments in the world. And for example, we have Miss Saran, who went to Stanford for her PhD. And you can also join tech companies like Meta or Facebook. Right? We have Sulaiman, who was a student about 2 years ago, and he joined Facebook. Right? And even if you're not interested in science and technology, you can, because of the broad critical thinking and some of the skills you've learned, especially if you take our AI courses and AI modules, you can go into a career in consultancy and finance. So we have Elizabeth, who's our senior analyst at Accenture. Our module is uniquely designed, right, to give you the most flexibility and the most ways to combine knowledge across different engineering disciplines, right? We have, you will take about roughly 1/3 of your modules that are common across all the students in our cohort. And then about another third is the major requirements. And then you have almost a quarter in unrestricted electives. So you can choose any specialization across different departments in CDE, or even outside of CDE, like business school or school of computing, right? And because of our flexibility, many of students have second majors or minors and courses of their interests. We have different specializations to make sure, I've mentioned, right, to make sure that you have the best fundamentals, right, to tackle the different key industries that Singapore or internationally that people are hiring, right? Biomedical, AI, polymers, and nanotechnology. I've mentioned that earlier. So for those who join a bit later, we have our specializations. You can choose them towards the 3rd and 4th year. And that's usually when you start to learn what you like most. And then you can really take a lot of these modules, right, to strengthen your knowledge and then apply them when you graduate. In terms of how your 4 years will look like, between year 1 and year 2, a lot of these modules are common, right? And they are quite broad to give you that foundation in chemistry, physics, and biology, right? And then after that, you can decide to specialize, right? Usually in your 3rd year or 4th year. And in your 3rd year, you also have opportunity to go to different companies for internships, right? It could be a health technology company, it could be Google or other or semiconductor companies, just to learn about how material science is being applied in their respective companies, or even apply your data analytics skills, right? If you join a tech company, so you get to do all that, usually in your 3rd year and maybe part of your 4th year. In your 4th year, you will basically have a lot more time to do the basically elective modules, right? So if you do second major, second or minor, right, you can do those your year 4, right? And you also have the opportunity to participate in team projects, right, where you learn how to work well in teams and work on very interesting projects. For example, this year we have a project on how do you create a cold supply chain, right, to make sure that the vaccines can be kept in a sustainable manner at the right temperature. And in fact, Dr. Wei Bing designed this course for us, right? We have new modules in machine learning and also materials characterization, right? If you like some of these laboratory work, right? We have machines and equipment that you will use and learn on how to understand material properties, and also use and therefore apply your AI to some of these methods and materials, all right? So, okay, so let's go to the practical question. I think all of you might be interested in, well, okay, so, you know, how do my salary compare when I graduate? I think it's, overall, I think, you know, despite COVID, our graduates have done very well, right? Last year, in fact, in the whole of Singapore, we have the highest salary, right, across the whole of Singapore in MSE type of programs. And our graduates have very high employability rate. Right, many of you may have seen this table here, right? It's also important to look at not just this column, but also the column after the employment. In full-time permanent employment, these are the numbers for students who actually have full-time jobs, right? More than 6 months and so on. So this is also a very important column to consider, not just the salary, but also career prospects in job, right? This column takes into account short-term employment. This column takes into account full-time employment over more than 6 months, right? So Vishnu will talk about this, but you know, he shared that the community and culture at MSE is extremely critical and pivotal to his career, right? In innovation, right? Wei Bing will share his experience after graduating from MSE, pursuing a doctoral program, and then now starting a company that is working with J&J, right, in a smart bandage areas. Also, our students have also done well in various types of competitions. For example, my student team actually from my group and some of the undergrads also have worked on this project. They actually developed a glaucoma sensor. Basically, glaucoma is when your eye pressure increases too high and you don't realize it, and you actually can turn blind. So a million people turn blind every year from glaucoma. And they developed a home kit, home electronic test kit that you can use very simply to measure your eye pressure, right? And this actually won the James Dyson Award International Award. So our team beat more than, I believe, more than several hundreds of international teams from top universities all over the world, right? And we are the first international winner in 17 years of its history from Singapore, right, to win it. So very proud of the MSE students that did this work. I also like to announce that we have very exciting and rewarding study awards, right, that is given to some of the best students that apply to us, right? In fact, this year we are starting this Sir Konstantin Novoselov Study Award, right, that will be given to the top students that apply to us. And if you're interested, definitely send an email to us MSE, right, to find out more about this award. And these awardees, you know, of course, will get a chance also to work with the Nobel laureate, right, Kostya, in our department. Besides that Sir Konstantin Novoselov award, we also have the Outstanding MSE Incoming Study Award that will be given to qualified students that apply to us, right? And this really is for recognizing first-year incoming students, and all students are encouraged to apply to this award. And you know, if you're male or female, you know, please go. It doesn't matter, right? Please go ahead to apply, and then you will have a very attractive financial support, right? In terms of grants, cash grants, to whether you want to use it for your studies or you want to use it for anything, right? So this is a very attractive study award from MSE. Some of you have mentioned our internship opportunities, and so how does the curriculum look like? We have many different, we have visits. For example, here is Dr. Jeremy Koh. Actually, you know, he actually had how some of our students go over and visit the ST engineering, right? We have also students organizing some of these innovation challenge, right, for JC and high school students. And then we have student MSE, active student MSE club. They have a lot of activities, fun activities for you to meet, not just people in your class, but you know, also other activities to meet people outside of your class or your dorms. I think the MSE is a career program, it's a degree and career program that really teaches you how as well as the why, right? So the how is, is the science and engineering aspect of it, and the why is really because the science and engineering, you can then apply them, right? So those are the how and the why. And when you know both the how and the why, normally, right, because of your knowledge, you'll have the opportunity to lead your team and therefore, achieve success, in your career, right? However you want to define success, whether it's salary, whether it's position, or whether it's type of industry you're in, or whether you're a startup and research and so on. So many opportunities exist for MSE graduates because we combine both science and engineering. Okay, so lastly, just like to highlight that, MSE, we actually have the first institute that Kostya, Sir Konstantin Rosolov, right, our Nobel laureate, is leading, the Functional Intelligent Materials Institute. Our students will get the chance to work in this institute. And we are also a highly ranked MSE program in the world. And in terms of employer reputation, this is very important for careers, is that because employers know about our degree program, our department, the chances of you getting a job, right, even before you graduate is very high because of we're number one ranked in Asia for employer reputation. We have many content available online if you are interested to find out more about some of these different specializations and degree programs within our department. The programs within our department. You can go to our website or scan this QR code to learn more. What's upcoming? What's the final show that we have planned for you is this alumni sharing as well on the 2nd March. Besides the alumni talks you'll hear today. All right. If you're interested, scan this QR code to join our Telegram program, or you can join this admissions page where you can leave your emails and we will contact you shortly if you have more questions about the program. Okay, so I think that's, I do want to clarify some things about this. Actually, a lot of you have probably know that we have a new school called the College of Design and Engineering, right? It doesn't mean that you have to be very good at art to join this college, right? What it means is that you get a chance to work with students that are very good at art, right? To create new products or technology and so on. So it doesn't mean you have to be an artist to join CDE, right? And in fact, actually what it does is it opens up, the different disciplines and the types of people that you get to meet. And these are very important because when you go into the industry, typically for launching any new products, whether it's a medical technology, medical device, you will have to work in teams with different skill sets. And the CDE as a whole, really allows that to happen. All right. I think I've come to the sort of end of my talk, Vincent.
Okay, thanks. Think here, do you have any questions? Maybe we give about like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Any questions regarding our curriculum or anything regarding material science? Feel free. I think there is this function where you can enter some questions. So if we do not have time to do it like within this segment, we can of course do it after this segment, right? So I'll just maybe let you all look at it.
Okay, we
Any
have one
questions?
question coming in, like what are the higher education opportunities with MSE?
Okay. I think then we have Professor Dan Blackwood, right? He's our curriculum head. He can probably answer that, right?
Okay, I can answer that. Basically, beyond your degree, I presume when you said higher education, we have the bachelor's degree, which is what you're going to do when you come first, which is a 4 years direct honors degree. If you wanted to go further than that, your choice is either you do a master's degree, what we call a Master of Science, which is a coursework program, or more likely you'd go into research. You can either go and do a Master's of Engineering, which is a 2-year research program, or a PhD, which takes 4 years. To get onto that sort of program, you would need to keep your CAP, which is your grade point average, above 4, so 4 out of 5. But we do have a number of students that stay on with us, but we also have graduates that go on to do PhDs all over the world. We've had them go to Oxford, Cambridge, MIT, Stanford. So if you're thinking of going further education beyond your bachelor's, joining us is a very good entry point. Because we do both science and engineering, you could also pivot back to do a PhD in physics or chemistry, is that what you thought you wanted to do? Or you could do one in chemical engineering or stay in MSE. So having a very broad scope gives you plenty of flexibility of where you would do a PhD. Okay.
Okay, we still do have some more questions for Prof. Dan. Which academic year can we start to take on a second major, minor, or specialization? There's also a A-level physics, is it a requirement, or will there be bridging modules, as well as the annual number of intake for Endo MSE? Okay, we'll answer one at a time.
Okay, so first one was when do we start second major or specializations? Specializations is relatively easy because those we tend to do in our own department, and you would typically start your specialization in your third or fourth year. Okay, so we do have a number of new specializations that we're promoting at the moment, which are not fully approved, but they will be fully approved by the time you reach your third year. So there'll be no problem with you taking those. The second major, you could start that probably in semester 2 or your third semester. Okay, the timetable now is in the first year is predominantly under the core curriculum. We only have 2 modules that we teach in MSE, and then you have what we call unrestricted space. And as soon as you have some unrestricted space, you can start doing your second major. So that would probably be in your third semester, but you may even start doing it as early as your second semester. It really depends on timetabling. What was the second question?
We got, is A-level physics a requirement, or would there be a bridging module?
Okay, the A-level physics is not a requirement. What you have to have is A-level maths plus either A-level chemistry or A-level physics. You must have O-level physics. So O-level physics is a requirement. If you don't have A-level physics, there is a bridging module that you can take to help make up. Okay. For the chemistry, if you don't have H2 chemistry, if you've got H1 chemistry, that's probably enough. But if you don't have even H1 chemistry, then it would also be a bridging module to help you catch up on your chemistry. So we do have bridging modules that you would take in your first year to help catch up.
Okay, I think we will have to answer the rest of the questions later towards the end, and we'll move on to the next segment.
Well, I thank everyone for the enthusiasm. I think we want to move on with the content first before we answer some of the questions. We will type in the answers when we'll try to answer it offline, or online, but through the Zoom, the chat function. So let me continue. So now, this is the second segment. We are way behind time, so. So this is the MSc undergrad sharing session. So the first speaker that I'd like to introduce is Joel. So Joel is our second year MSc student. So he has liked science for a long time, and he feels that the material science is one of the most diverse, which I agree, and most applicable course that ranges from nanomaterials to biomaterials, right? And it will always be relevant in the future. So, so can we please welcome Joel to share his experience with us. Joel, please.
Okay, thanks, Prof. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can you all see the slideshow?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so yeah, I added a meme, but yeah. I'm Joel. I'm going to share about my experience in MSE as a year 2 undergraduate. All right. So maybe a bit about me first. Okay, I'm 22 years old. I'm 23 this year actually. I'm in year 2 MSE. I'm also minoring in computer science, and I hope to upgrade to a second major after this semester. Previously, I was from Pioneer Junior College, and I took PCME, Physics, Chem, Maths, Econs for H2. I'm also a recipient of NUS Merit Scholarship, and I'm also in a couple of casual CCAs, as well as assisting MSE Club with freshman orientation plans, so freshman orientation camp. So yeah, if you join MSE in the future, you'll probably be seeing me around it during camp. Okay, so a bit about why I joined MSE. MSE really first came to me as an option when my teacher in secondary school recommended it to me. He was like, yeah, maybe you can consider MSE. And then because he was quite an influential teacher, I had a really good impression of him. So I took his suggestion to heart lah, and I started looking more into it during JC. Okay, my physics and chemistry was also not bad. I also did quite well. So I did want to go into a more scientific field. Okay, but the thing that really attracted me about MSE when I looked into it is how diverse it is, how many applications, how applicable it is in all different kinds of industry. So for example, for me, when I first started looking into it, this was still during my JC time, I was really interested in nanomaterials. Why? Because of all the cool demonstrations that you see, a lot of YouTube videos, they say you take a piece of graphite, a pencil lead, you take Scotch tape, and then you just repeatedly stick the Scotch tape onto the pencil lead and then pull it off. And on the Scotch tape, you'd be left with a thin layer of graphene. And then I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Yeah, so that was my first interest. That was my first encounter maybe with MSE, and it was about nanomaterials. But during my NS time, as I was trained as a medic, my interest shifted more towards biomedical applications. I was looking at how some of the processes in medical might be improved with materials. Okay, and as I continue on into uni, as I continue learning about materials, now as I'm taking a second major in or a minor in CS, okay, my interest shifted more towards AI, artificial intelligence, and how to use AI in material science research. But the great thing about this is no matter where I go, like what interest I have at the time, is still materials. Like even though all my interests are so diverse, span such a wide range, everything is catered for in material science. And this is something that really attracted me, is how relevant it is everywhere. And it's also, I did actually consider other options. Without saying too much, my A-level results were able to get me into courses like medicine or computer science. So I did consider those at first, but to me, materials science just seemed more interesting than competing options. And also it looks fun. Something I want to maybe I just, because as an online session, you guys might not get you guys might not get a very nice experience for hands-on demonstrations. So let me just explain to you. Once I went to this publicity event where they took some old phones, handphones, and put it under a Vickers hardness machine to test how hard the screen was. So what they did was they literally just take a diamond or a sharp tip, and they press it into the phone screen and see how big the hole it leaves behind. And so the bigger the hole, the softer the screen, or the smaller the hole, the harder the screen. And to me, as that was my first encounter with lab work and with like the proper lab equipment, and that was really cool. And we just spent a good part of like an hour chucking random things into the Vickers hardness machine and other machines that they allow us to play around with. And we were just fooling around with it. So it was really fun, the experience, and hopefully y'all will get to experience that also in MSE. Okay, so maybe a bit more about my experience with MSE Curriculum. This is just my very, very rough breakdown on what I experienced so far. Year one is focused more on clearing prereqs and faculty level requirements. So these are things that all engineers is good for all engineers to know, but might not feel very relevant to MSE. So for example, one of the mods we did was this design mod. Okay, what we did is we are supposed to create a drone that can clear an obstacle course, and is also and can also serve a real life purpose. So we created this Twitch drone that can clear this course, and it's supposed to be a military surveillance drone where we send it into a room and then it will scout the room for us before coming back out. Okay, yeah, so maybe some of you will know where we got this inspiration from. Okay, and year 2 is focused more on MLE core mods, so more theoretical, more related, more relevant to MSE. Okay, and we also did lab. So the picture on the left over here is paper when viewed under the microscope at 1,500 times magnification. I just did this lab 2 weeks ago, and when I did it, it was my mind was blown. You know, it's like going into the quantum realm, kind of something like that. So I think this picture is really cool, and we also did image other things like a leaf, and we went to image each individual cells on the leaf, and that was really interesting as well. Okay, year 3 is mainly for your internship and for clearing more UEs, and year 4 is for your FYP. So I haven't done those yet, so I won't say too much about it. Okay, so my thoughts on MSE curriculum. So theoretical lectures and theoretical mods will definitely be there. And this is not just for MSE, this is for every course. Okay, and some mods might not feel very relevant, especially those university level requirements. Okay, teaching you about writing, teaching you about human cultures and things might not feel very relevant, but it's still important. And knowing the theory allows us to understand practical techniques much better. And when you know the theory so well, and when you put that into practice, into things that you actually care about, that's when I feel that learning all this theory becomes very worth it. So for example, electric vehicles, okay, the batteries inside them, okay, how do you make it better? How do we increase the energy density? And also the liquid electrolytes inside the batteries, are we able to make it solid instead of like just a liquid sloshing around in there? Are we able to make it solid? So that's why we learn, for example, crystallography, where we learn whether if we have some defects inside a crystal, it can actually allow the crystal to conduct electricity through ions. Okay, 3D printing is another thing that we do quite a bit in MSE. By learning, for example, principles of solidification, we are able to know which processes, which 3D printing process is suitable for which material, and are you able to 3D print metal parts, and what kind of things, what kind of processes do you need for that? Can you do the same thing for metal parts as you do for plastic parts, for example? And lastly, nanotechnology. Even though it sounds very cool, it sounds very far removed from the rest, from all of us, what is it really, and what are some of the practical applications besides just besides just a cool research field? And this is something, quantum dots. I think it was on the quiz just now. This is something that you can use it for. By changing the size of the quantum dots, you can actually get it to emit different wavelengths of light. And so you get these nice colors where you can, for example, use it inside the TVs. And all these are actual examples that I took from my lecture notes. And it's not just, it's actually something that we are learning about. Okay, so I think this is the part that I can add a bit more value to, which is student life. So actually you do have quite a bit of freedom to pursue other goals. So CCAs is one of the most obvious ones. You can join CCAs, you can join clubs and societies that you want. Okay, if you are so inclined, you can stay on campus. You can experience hall and RC life, for example, mahjong until 3 a.m. You can, go out drinking when there's the COVID requirements are not around. You can also join in planning or just participating in camps and other special events. Okay, and that's for the more social side of things. If you are more interested towards the academic side of things, there's also programs for you as well. Just now already mentioned, there's 40 MCs of UEs, and you can use those to pursue a second major or minor, just studying another secondary subject that you are really interested in. That's what your UEs are for. If you want, you can also start researching during your undergrad years. There's this program called Europe, that I'm also doing right now is for undergrads to attach to a PhD student to assist them or just shadow them when they're doing their research. Okay, you can choose to work part-time as you if you want. I know quite a lot of my my coursemates are doing that, and there's many other programs and activities for you to choose from. And some of them are really obscure. For example, if you want to very niche, let's just say, for example, if you want to build a race car, you can there's actually programs for that as well. You can spend 3 years to build a race car and then go overseas to race against other universities. So there's countless programs, and you are free to tailor your university experience to suit your interests, whether that's more academic or whether that's more social. And the only advice I have to give is don't be afraid to look and ask. So there's all the programs available, but if you don't know about it, if you don't go and ask about it, okay, you'll never find it. So if you just look and ask, and I'm sure that you'll be able to find something for you. Okay, and this is just some parting thoughts about student life in MSE. Okay, we have a relatively small cohort size, so our community is actually very tight-knit. We are actually all of us, at least in my year, we know each other and we support each other when facing some difficult modules, or when we group work, we do it together. It makes it much more enjoyable than doing with some people you're not familiar with. The pros, because they're just very nice people, and they're also very approachable, very available. They always reply to emails within 1 hour. At least they try to lah. I think to my experience, they are very approachable and very available. And MSE and Engine Club also gives us as much welfare and care packs as possible. And there's also a lot of resources to make your study environment more conducive. There's free gyms, okay, there's rooms for you to book, for you to conduct meetings, okay, there's aircon, there's places to study quietly, there's places to study with friends. So there's lots of resources for you to make your stay more enjoyable. Okay. And also this point, this is called the SU option, which is something that really impacts your undergraduate experience by taking a lot of your stress away. So if you don't know what that is, this is basically a program where if you did not so well in a mod, okay, you can actually just tell the university to waive the grade under some conditions. Yeah, and this is something that especially for people who are just starting out with university, we really value. And also the last thing that will impact your undergrad experience greatly, but nobody really talks about, is the food in Techno Edge is one of the best value for money. It might not be the nicest, but compared to the cost, this is the food in Techno Edge, I believe, is the best. So yeah, try the Western stall. And the parting thought for this slide is there's many things you can do in uni, as I already mentioned previously, but there's also a lot of free things. There's a lot of programs that you can take from as well. Okay? Don't be afraid to take free stuff. Don't be afraid to take your welfare packs. Don't be afraid to take all the resources that the university has available. And I think that kinds of wraps up my sharing. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and I hope to see you in MSE.
Okay, thanks, Joel. So I think if there's any question that you want to ask Joel, please feel free to key into the Q&A function, and we'll answer by typing. Right. So I think we are a bit short of time, so I'll just go on to our next speaker. So next speaker is Satak. So he's our 3rd year MSc student. So it will be interesting if you are thinking of getting a second major in design. It's innovation and design program. So if you're thinking of that, then he's the guy that you want to listen up. Okay. So may I please welcome Satak to share his experience. Satak, please.
Thank you, Prof. Give me a
Okay.
second, please. I will just start to screen share.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, please let me know if my screen is visible to all.
Yeah, looks great. Thanks.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I sincerely appreciate everyone taking time out of their Sunday to be here to hear us speak and to also let us share a little bit about how life is in NUS MSE. So I'll just move on now. So I just want to start by talking a little bit about myself. I'm a year 3 student, which is a penultimate year student in NUS MSE. As I think Prof mentioned, I have a second major in innovation and design. My path to NUS MSc was a little unorthodox. I believe many of you present here are taking either the A level or the IB, but for me, how the qualification I had before enrolling into university was the Cambridge International AS and A levels, and that was thanks to an international school. So I have a Indian international school background in a sense. So in my first year, I had the opportunity to stay on campus. So I stayed in RVRC, which is the Ridgeview Residential College. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar, but surely you might have heard of it if you are searching for on-campus accommodation. So I believe RVRC is quite centrally located. It's right smack in the middle of the NUS campus. So that's where I stayed for my first year. I like dogs better than I like cats, and I enjoy working with my hands. So if there's anything that requires DIY, I will enjoy it. So anything ranging from Lego to even say, for example, sticking some like a hook holder just to hold my stylus on my laptop. So it's just random things like that. As long as it requires working with the hands, I particularly enjoy. There are examples later on in this presentation itself where I think you would also agree. So I guess I would like to bring myself back in time for a second to go back to where many of you may be present at this moment, where you would be considering why MSE. So moving forward ahead, I realized that why I wanted to go to MSE was because I wanted to be more versatile as an engineer. So engineering is already quite a diverse and quite a prestigious field, but I wanted to be versatile in the sense that I am not that I am familiar with, engineering across different scopes or whatever the different scopes fall under engineering itself. So that's where materials comes in, because materials, I believe, is fundamental to different branches of engineering. I guess if you ask enough questions as to why things work, right, you will end up in a materials property at some point of stage in many of these branches of engineering. Also, personally, I don't okay, so for example, right, I will not do well in an exam if I don't understand what the syllabus or the course is teaching. So that's why I like to probe at fundamentals. I like to ask why. So I believe MSc has given me the platform or allowed me to ask why, because it explains the underlying or very fundamental mechanisms, techniques, and the phenomena. So it helps us appreciate the world, and it helps us look at things where we cannot see, in the dimension which we cannot see. Okay, the third point would be about community, and about community, I just heard from my seniors that there is a somewhat of a senior to junior sharing culture, I guess, which at the point of matriculation, I didn't really take very seriously, but along the way, I have received quite a bit of help from my seniors as well. So at least for my batch, I can say that there is quite a sense of community within the batch itself. It's a very tightly knit community, so everyone knows everyone, and it's very likely that you'll bump into each other through co-curricular activities or even lab modules, and then you will more or less help each other with things which are common to all. Lastly, I believe it's MSc is really a culmination of the sciences. So if I were to use an analogy to describe this, I would say, like, as though the sciences are all like really old friends. They don't have much in common and they rarely meet, but MSc is the place they go to like meet and have a good time with each other. So if that analogy does not really resonate with you, I have another one which is perhaps a little more palatable. So I guess somewhere
Okay, looks like we lost Satak for a little while. Hopefully he can join back. Looks like we lost Satak. Hopefully he can
Hello, are you
join.
able to hear me?
Oh, okay, yeah, Satak, yeah, go ahead. You got cut off.
Okay. I'm not sure where I got cut off. Could you please let me know what is the last
Thanos.
thing?
At
Sorry?
Thanos.
Thanos. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess what I was just saying is that please don't let this put you off. You do not need to know all of the sciences to do well in MSc. It just gives you the platform to delve into the different sciences. Okay, I would like to touch a little bit upon academics, because what I particularly like about the MSc curriculum is the hands-on lab experience. It is one thing to sit in a classroom and learn mechanisms, theories, and for example, laws, but it's another thing entirely to go to the lab, work with your hands, come up with experiments, and during the lab come up with the results, which you later go back and then you research and try to explain using theories which are established not only in your books which are provided to you, but as well as like research publications. So like the entire scientific world is kind of open to you to explore. So that's what I particularly enjoy. MSc, the labs are also very well equipped. Like they have equipment inside there which I cannot comprehensively list out. For example, I think the most memorable for me was the transmission electron microscope. It's like 2 stories tall and it has a room to itself. And I just find it incredible because it is capable of such immense magnification. So it was beyond the scope of my imagination before I joined MSc. Another thing is I took design modules by virtue of my second major. So this particular picture over here, it's rather small, but it is about creating a sense of privacy within a co-living space. So I guess the design experiment, it goes beyond simply just materials or engineering. It's about experiences. It's about designing solutions. So I took it by virtue of the second major, but I believe under the new curriculum, which I'm sure you all will be undertaking, these are more accessible. So design thinking modules are now part of the core curriculum, I believe. And also like to stress that the theory behind the experiments, it is not as though you are just left into the lab and then you do your own things and then try to figure out everything by yourself. There's definitely a lot of theoretical support because professors, they upload lectures to explain concepts before you even step into the lab. And there's a lot of information available. And I think even Joel mentioned that the professors are very responsive. They're very accessible, literally one email away. So that's something I appreciate. Okay, so I guess I will just condense a few highlights from the first year to my third year. And it's difficult to condense like 3 years worth of experience in a few slides, but I think I've just accumulated a few here. So in my first year and my second year, I was involved with Engine Club. So at the time, it was the official representative student club for the Faculty of Engineering. But now I believe things have changed. And I wouldn't say I'll be able to update you with regards to their jurisdiction, but what I did in Engine Club was I was part of the freshman orientation program, and I took up a role as a director. So this was for the O Week, which is a freshman orientation program catering to about 600 people, 600 freshmen who matriculate into engineering. So this is cross discipline as well. As part of being the O-Week director, I was also the management committee member. So I was involved in a lot of the other activities which Engine Club hosted at the time. And I was also a subcommittee member for the student life. We had initially planned for like a physical event, a face-to-face event with 600 people. But as you know, the COVID situation evolved and we had to transition to online. Even then, we were able to secure participation of about 700 people. And we were able to make one combined online orientation experience, combining the different freshman orientation programs which were run previously. In my second year, I took up a more, I guess, a slightly senior role as a deputy general secretary, and I assisted with administrative tasks in running the club. Okay, another highlight is possibly my design-centric project, which again is thanks to the second major in innovation and design. This is a 12 MC, 12 modular credit module, where normal modules are about 4 modular credits. So the scope of my project was involving a certain CCA, which I think Joel mentioned in his presentation. So remember, he mentioned that you would have the opportunity to build and race your own NUS race car, for example, and then compete with other universities. So that pathway is known as the NUS FSAE, which is the Formula SAE pathway. You could find out more about it on their official site. But what our project was doing was it was helping them improve one race critical component, and to improve the race performance by modifying a few of its properties, such as like lighter weight, a resilience to vibration, and etc. So this particular component houses essentially the brain of the race car, where it houses the power distribution module, a few low voltage, grounded low voltage components as well. And our job was to improve the housing of it. So of course we did consider the standard mass and then the design itself, like resistance to, say, for example, braking simply by plugging in and taking out the connectors. But another factor which was not previously considered was vibration. So I included this here because I feel it was quite a significant exposure for me. I learned about an entirely different field, which is vibration analysis, which is unfamiliar to me. And there was a very steep learning curve as well. And this project allowed me to work with ANSYS for simulation. So first we simulated the response of the housing under vibrational stress. And then we actually went about testing it. We approached an independent company, and they actually had a shaker which was capable of shaking the stage up to like 1000 hertz or even more. And then the input for the vibration was also programmed by us. So this is why it's quite a significant exposure for me. Next, I'd like to talk about my vacation internship at A-Star. So I was attached as a research intern at Quantum Materials and Devices, which is a research lab under the Institute of Materials Research at A-Star. Yeah. So A-Star is very large and it has several different columns which you can pursue. So mine is simply just one group parked under the several columns. So mine was under QMD. QMD aims to overcome the several materials-based challenges in realizing quantum computing. So I'm sure you might be familiar. Quantum computing is there's always a promise of quantum superiority, where quantum computing is poised to perform much better as compared to classical computing. So to get to that stage, of course, there are several material-based challenges. For example, this quantum phenomena manifests at like a very low temperature. So how do we bring that up to ambient temperature? Or all of this, the quantum computer itself is like a very complex machine. How do we make it like a scalable architecture, this kind of thing? So the research lab I was working with, they aim to realize the dream of quantum computing, but by developing the hardware, a scalable architecture in essence. So what I did was, in the internship I was part of creating a atomically thin semiconductor device. So the picture over here is an AutoCAD drawing of the semiconductor device. The materials I've worked with are rather novel. So this particular material is gallium oxide, and we were trying to investigate its electrical properties and to assess its suitability for use as a capping layer. The other materials I worked with have interesting like spintronic properties, and we did make a few other devices where there was simply a source and drain, but I included this picture because it looks the most impressive. So I want you to understand that the scale of this is extremely small. It's and to actually deposit contacts such as this on such a small scale, you can't even see the structure through the naked eye. You have to view it through an optical microscope. And this device essentially was ready for electrical measurements. So that's what I did at A-Star. So I've also included a few other random things I've done in my undergraduate life. So for example, this particular contraption, it was part of one of the general elective modules. It's GEQ, and the theme of this particular module was sustainability. So what this thing is supposed to do is supposed to collect rainwater, and then you can repurpose that rainwater to like water other plants inside your house, or so it's basically just collection of rainwater. So I mean, of course, this was done in year one, so it is rather low fidelity, but it was an interesting experience nevertheless, because I enjoyed DIY. Next is this keychain, these two keychains. I actually have them on my bag right now. So I made these keychains as part of one of the lab modules where we had to come up with our own design and then get it printed and evaluate which method of printing is best. So you notice that both of these colors are different. It's because both pieces have been printed using different 3D printing techniques. So and you can see that one 3D printing technique is not capable of for example, the design features of the other. So it's like intricacies like these, which I feel I would never have known had I not taken up that lab module or been exposed to the MSc curriculum. I guess lastly is this thing which basically is a cradle for the landline phone. There's you might feel is quite counterintuitive because there is a charging dock, right, which holds the phone. But the reason I did this or I made this using Lego or random Lego pieces lying around the house is rather amusing. If you're interested to find out more, you could ask me in the Q&A segment. Okay, that brings me to the end of my presentation. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the faculty, the professors, many of whom are present here, for their constant support and guidance. And I truly appreciate the community that has been built over here. And as someone who has benefited greatly from seniors helping me out, I would like to pass it on forward. So if any of you present here would like to know anything about MSE, or like to ask about the curriculum, to ask about student life, or in any way I can help, or even to convince me that cats are better than dogs, feel free to reach out to me on Telegram. My Telegram handle is here.
Thanks, Satak. So I think there's a question posed to you. So please help us address the question. It's in the Q&A chat box.
Oh, okay.
So please look at it later. Okay.
Yeah,
so
sure.
thanks. It's a very good sharing by both Joel and also with Satak. So let's do this the third part, because I know we are running about way behind time. So I'll just apologize. Please just hang on and bear with us for a while more. I'm going to introduce the third segment, which is the MSc Alumni Sharing Session, right? So I am very pleased to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Jeremy. So Dr. Jeremy Koh is currently a technology planning officer at ST Engineering, and he's also holding a adjunct assistant professorship at NUS, right? So I'll let him introduce himself, I guess. So can we please welcome Dr. Jeremy? Dr. Jeremy, please.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep. Good.
Okay, I'll be sharing my materials now. Hang on. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, Jeremy.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you all for really inviting me to return again to share my experience and thoughts since joining the NUS family. I'm Jeremy, and although I do lament the current circumstances in which we are not able to have a more personal get together, I hope that you're able to find my sharing a bit useful in any phase of your education. Okay, so first I'd just like to share a little bit about my company. I believe some of you may have heard of ST Engineering. Some of you may also be prospective or if not current scholars of our company under the SGIS scholarship program. We are a global company with engineers in both defense and commercial areas and activities spanning more than 100 countries across the globe. Our business actually covers various sectors of industry, be it commercial, defense or public security, and it actually boasts a sizable portfolio of technology and engineering innovations that some of you may have seen or used. As a company, we have a vision to be a global technology, defense, and engineering powerhouse. We place emphasis on developing a strong technology and engineering core, and actually look for various ways in which we can collaborate with like-minded individuals and partners to create multiple solutions. This includes actually working with research institutes via our research and translation at ST Engineering, even startups through our $150 million corporate venture capital fund managed by our unit, ST Engineering Ventures. So ST Engineering, for me, is my first job. And for me, I started my career with Land Systems, then known as Kinetics. Following the completion of my IPP PhD program with the company, I was thereafter rotated to the Group Technology Office, where I now manage group level intellectual property. So this for me actually really was the interesting part for ST Engineering. I mean, where else can you find yourself being exposed to career opportunities that span very diverse sectors of the industry while being still in one single company? So I was from the class of 2012, so it was quite far back, and honestly, I'm pretty much your grand senior of some sort. I did my FYP with A-Star in Pyrite Photovoltaics. Back then, I also did an internship with DSO, National Laboratories. And right after graduation, I joined ST Engineering Land Systems and as a thermal spray engineer, specializing in cold spray for repair and augmentation of aerospace and automotive components. So I would very much like to consider those first 2 years technical experts and establish my engineering core. You guys are still seeing my screen, right? Just to make sure.
You were breaking up here and there.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you're good to go, or you're muted?
I'm back. Are you guys able to see the screen again?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, essentially, basically, in 2014, I was given this opportunity to lead as the chief engineer of a transparent ceramics program. It was pretty much a defining moment for me, and then after that, I became the head of transparent systems. So sometime after, actually, I moved on to do strategic planning for the company, and currently, in fact, I'm basically doing technology planning and IP management. So honestly, I must say I've grown quite a bit, and very grateful to the company for all these opportunities. In my earlier years, actually, my foundations was established as an engineer, and being in emerging technologies division gave me exposure to many areas regarding advanced materials, advanced alloys, composites, ceramics, and transparent solutions. So, and this is where the part where I really wish to share why I chose material science as a preferred choice. MSc is interdisciplinary, right? So it really transcends the plane between fundamental science and applied engineering. This allowed me to keep my eye on practical engineering and product development while being grounded in a strong foundation in the natural sciences. And it is with this foundation that I actually started my career. And my work as a chief engineer in my program in transparent materials basically used whatever I learned back in MSc. And I continue to hone this throughout my earlier parts of my career and adding to it new skill sets and to augment this capability. Even today, I continue to venture into areas beyond my core expertise, diving in areas such as machine learning, artificial intelligence to help improve the value proposition of the materials engineer in the industry. So my work with various institutions, even in those earlier years, saw growth in areas of technology management, partnerships, covered IP management, and having been in strategic planning for 3 years actually allowed me to access a whole new set of skills, ranging from contract law, strategic finance, and even having a hand at activities such as ventures and mergers and acquisitions. So my work with ST Engineering in various areas actually allowed me to travel quite a bit, at least up until the pandemic hit. These experiences really helped sharpen my sensitivities to different cultures, especially since I get to interact with many overseas counterparts on a regular basis. Some of them even actually became lifelong friends. Traveling really truly broadened my horizons, but more importantly, actually affirmed something I believe very much in MSE. This is a quote from a display in a hall of crystals at the British Museum of Natural History, which I visited during my grad trip. NUS MSE has actually not just taught me the science. It's not just the technology, not just books, but rather this very, very deep understanding that we are not essentially alone. I mean, even from the previous presentations by our undergraduates, you can see that there's this culture of senior to junior, alumni to current batches. That kind of culture has never left us. And look at how all this actually comes full circle. I mean, I never would have imagined myself returning after 10 years, giving back to my alma mater, even through an adjunct position, and even just talking to you. Far too many people have supported and guided me in my path. And it's not just seniors, and we're talking about many, many people out there. In one way or another, we all seem very much connected to one another. I mean, take for instance, these two seniors. They graduated way earlier than me. And they graduated from MSE and are currently distinguished scientists at DSO National Laboratories. I was Shakim's intern, and I was an undergrad when I was an undergraduate. Her achievements in the field of material science have earned her recognition, from various agencies. And Shakim actually never failed to give back to her alma mater. Actually, in fact, it was Shakim's work that inspired me to do a PhD in advanced ceramics. To this very day, both Shakim and Ernest and myself actually remain as good friends and colleagues. My PhD journey was like filled with many ups and downs. Yet one thing I really know, essentially, I was really never alone. The support from so many people, professors, teaching and administrative staff. Even after these many years have proven to me that help is always never too far away. I mean, pardon this Harry Potter pun, but it's always given to any of us who ask for it. My peers have been very strong pillars in my development, and I've never doubted their abilities to carry me whenever I'm down. And these are people who I know I can count on when the going gets tough. I mean, and even I'll refer to Dr. Tan Chai over here. He actually graduated with a PhD from NUS chemistry, but you can see essentially his work is in graphene that was shared earlier, and it's pretty much material science. And the peers and colleagues that I work with and associate myself with aren't just the ones that are limited to ST engineering alone. As part of the MSc faculty, I have actually the grand honor of being in close touch with the greats, such as the Nobel laureate, Professor Novoselov, our head of MSc department, Professor Barbaros, and even colleagues from other faculties like Professor Loh Kian Peng. As you have heard, graphene alone is indubitably interdisciplinary, and it's what makes material science really very special. And the work of material science, the work of advanced materials, it doesn't just stop at an academic level. Take, for example, 2DM Materials. 2DM Materials is a company that spun off from NUS, focusing on manufacturing graphene and developing industry applications for it. And we are actually very keen on watching this space, ensuring that this actually goes into our products. So you can see my relationship with NUS MSc has never stopped upon graduation in 2012. Since then we have numerous engagements and have traveled together, in fact. And this, so this in fact actually is a picture of me and Dr. Vincent in our undergraduate days. True enough, we were classmates back then. Right after a very grueling design project presentation, and you can just see us squatting out there in front of LT7A. Just looking very exasperated. So you can see that the close kind of relationship is unique to an NUS MSc. This is what enables many opportunities for our students, researchers, staff, and even the alumni community. Just last year alone, even in the midst of the ongoing pandemic, we managed to play host to NUS MSc undergraduates, to help shed light on various applications your education in NUS MSc has to offer in real world scenarios. And I think, and this is really one person that I really have to thank for. As they say in Chinese, 一日为师，终身为父. And that just means, a day as a teacher, a lifetime as a father. Professor Wang has been there in various aspects of my growth since graduation, and I consider myself truly lucky to have been able to be under his care as my PhD mentor. And of course, this journey of passing this torch from year to year, from senior to junior, taking care of one another is something that I find most valuable in my experience at NUS MSE. And so for some concluding thoughts, I think in considering your path from here on, ask not what you can receive, but what you really can give for the betterment of others. I think that's what you truly learn. That's when you really truly learn to grow in ways unimaginable. And always remember that, we as seniors at MSE, even grand seniors, alumni, we will always be there to help you. So thank you. And for those of you who are interested to understand more, you can feel free to scan this QR code to connect with me. And all the best for your studies and career ahead. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. So I think that's quite a very interesting sharing. Okay, I think we do not have much time, so I'd like to invite our last speaker. So please just stay with us. If you have any questions, we'll be answering them right after this sharing. Okay. So our last speaker for the day is Professor Wei Bing. So Professor Wei Bing is our associate prof at Material Science and Engineering. So he's the founder and partner of a medical tech startup. So if you're interested in medical startup, then he's the one that you need to talk to, right? So let me just welcome Prof. Wei Bing.
Thank you, Vincent. Can I share my slide?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so thank you guys for turning up for today's sessions. I actually didn't expect that I need to prepare a slide, so I quickly just do up this one-page slide just now. So which pretty much summarize what I have done over the past few years. Okay, so I was very much in the regulatory affairs of medical devices, right? So I was a regulatory specialist with HSA, Health Science Authority, Singapore. And from there, I moved on to medical device manufacturing companies, which is doing drug-eluting cardiovascular stents. So after spending a few years in the authorities as well as in companies, I decided to start up my companies, which is called Sporogenics. So many of you might have wondered, what is material science got to do with biomedical, right? So in fact, it does play a very important role in the sense that when you look at medical devices, especially those that is going into your bodies, even if those like wound dressings that's going to be in direct contact with your injured skins and wounds, you want to know that your materials are safe, right? So we look at the regulatory aspect of how safe is your materials, because we don't want it to cause any adverse events to your human bodies. So in MSE, you will learn about the different analytical techniques to be able to know the compositions of the materials. So just to cite an examples, phthalate, which is a common plasticizer used in plastics. So it is classified in a globally, especially in the EU, as a CMR material. So CMR material stands for carcinogenic, mutagenic, and reproductive toxicity. In fact, as of last year, 2021, cobalt, which is a magnetic material, which is often found in stainless steel, right? So when you go for your vaccinations, you have the needles. So those needles are typically made of stainless steel. So last year, this has been upclassed with CMR. So when you want to get your medical devices to be approved to be used in any countries, you need to prove to the authorities that your materials is safe. So as a material scientist, you will know how to analyze your compositions. And other than that, you need to know what are the analytical methods that you should use. For example, you can use a XRF, X-ray fluorescence, to analyze your cobalt content. You can also use ICP MS, right, inductively coupled plasma mass spec, to analyze what is the leachable cobalt in your stainless steels. So this is something that's very relevant to MSc if you are someone who's very interested in doing biomedicals. Even if you want to go into regulatory affairs, material science serves as a very good platform, because biocompatibility of materials is very important aspect of medical devices, right? So as to talk a bit on my startups, I just want to quickly show what I'm doing now. So we are doing something that is polymer-based materials. Essentially, what we want to do is to address, the tissue adhesions after surgeries. So this is something that is very common for everyone who has undergone surgeries. So this is what materials can play a role in improving the surgical outcomes. So it's very meaningful. So as mentioned by a few speakers before this, material science is the core fundamentals in a lot of industry, including the biomedical. So if you're someone who's very interested in biomedicals, I think this would be a good program for you. And I think we are running a bit late. So I think I will end my talks here. Of course, if there's any questions, feel free to send me emails. I'll be happy to provide any information as to career options after MSc if you're interested in to go into regulatory affairs. Okay. With that, Vincent, I'll pass it back over to you.
Vincent, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. So this is the last part where you can ask us anything. So feel free. You can ask anything you want to. We aim to answer them all live. So if you are shy, you can type in your questions in the Q&A. If not, I welcome you to switch on your mic and talk to us if there's a way. I'm not sure. Right. So let's look at some of the questions. If you have, just go on, put it on the Q&A. Okay, let's discuss the first question. So what is the number of annual intake into MSc? So can I invite all the panelists to switch on their video, and unmute yourself. So this is like it's for anyone who wants to answer. So this is just a relaxed one, okay, relaxed session. So what is the number of annual intake into MSc, right? Is the competition very high? All right, so can we have any panelists who wants to kick the ball rolling first?
Okay, maybe I'll take this one.
Okay.
Typically, in the last few years, it's been around 60 to 80. However, the College of Engineering, we've just become a college rather than a faculty, changed the admission process. So there's now just one admission, so a single cutoff point for all our engineering degrees, except for the computer one, which will be higher. So our actual intake now, there isn't actually a limit, right? If you are qualified to get into engineering to do MSc, then you'll be admitted. So we're no longer saying, okay, if we have 100 students, that's enough, we won't let any more in. So there's no longer a limit on the size of our intake, but we anticipate to be somewhere around the 70 to 80 mark is what we hope for. This year was 57, which was a little lower. A couple of years ago, we were 100. So that sort of ballpark.
Okay, good, thanks. Anyone else wants to contribute to the questions? All right, I think all right, then we move on to the next question if there's no comments from the panelists. All right, so next question is, what exactly will we be studying? Okay, I think that's a very valid question actually.
Yeah. So I'm flashing out the course and electives here. Maybe then you want to sort of walk through that.
Then you're
Dan,
muted.
Dan, do you want to walk through this slide?
Okay, yeah, I can perhaps go through this slide. I was going to present it. I will present it in the afternoon, something similar to this. So in your first 2 years, you do predominantly a engineering core, where you'll learn the basis of engineering. This will be project management, design, system thinking, a little bit on computing, some mathematics. Some of this, you also do learn an introduction to artificial intelligence. The only MSc courses you will take are the ones in purple here. These are what we call principles and practice, where we try and get you into the lab at the beginning. So you'll start by learning, say, the basic chemistry you need, the basic physics you need, and then the basic materials properties that you will actually need to do. Then you will move on to what we've now called the basics of renewable energy, which is basically thermodynamics. This is how energies, the thermodynamics you need to know why things happen in a particular direction. Later, you'll learn kinetics, which tells you about how fast they go. You'll then learn about electronic materials. Throughout the course, you'll eventually learn about the properties of materials. They have mechanical properties, chemical properties, but in particular, we focus quite a bit on electronic properties because one of the major employers is still the semiconductor industry. Okay. Then we will move on to materials characterization in your third year. So the purplish color ones are the ones you're doing MSc. Materials characterization, what's the structure of the material? That's really one of the basic things that we need to know in materials science and engineering. The building blocks, right? So you learn about the structures, but then you characterize your materials to investigate its building blocks. And when you know the building blocks, you can predict what properties it will have, its hardness, what it will conduct, electricity, will it corrode, etc. Okay. You also do materials kinetics. That's the other half of the thermodynamics. Kinetics is about how fast reactions will occur. You will then do an industrial attachment. Okay, with a company, you'll do a 6 months industrial attachment. And then in your final year, you will do either a team-based design project or an FYP. That's a final year research project. You also learn about materials selection. A sort of basic thing for material scientists. What am I going to make something out of, right? If I want to make a electrical conducting wire, what should I make it out of? If I want to make a table, what should I make it out of? Everything that's around you is made of materials. If you want to implant for biomedical application, what should you make it out of? So you'll learn that. How do we actually decide what to make it out of? It's not that easy. There are now hundreds of thousands of materials to choose from. So we have to have a strategy to do that. You'll then learn more machine learning. And then after that, you'll have technical electives where you will start doing specializations. And you can do a specialization in biomedical materials. We actually have collaborated with the Department of Biomedical Engineering to actually come up with a proper specialization. So you can take some of biomedical engineering modules, or you can take materials modules. We have a specialization in nanomaterials. And we also, by the time you get there, we'll have specializations in microelectronic materials. Artificial intelligence has already just been improved. We actually call it functional intelligent materials, but it's really the use of artificial intelligence and materials. And we will also have one in sustainability and energy. You'll also see on here a lot of these sort of white squares, which says unrestricted electives. That allows you to take anything you like, okay? But that's where you would do the double major, okay? You'll see, if you added them up, you'll find there's 40 MCs there, which is enough to do the double major. So really what you're studying is a mixture of physics, chemistry, and traditional engineering. So some mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and chemical engineering. We're a real hybrid topic, which is why you have so much flexibility in your future career when you do material science and engineering. I know we don't have much time. That was a fairly long answer, so maybe I should stop there.
Okay, thank you. So okay, let's just move on with a few questions more. So what is the female to male ratio for MSc?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we really strive to be as close to one as possible. In fact, I think if I'm not wrong, we have a very high female to male ratio among all the engineering departments.
Yeah.
In fact, we are right now close to about close to 30-40% females.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we certainly would like to see more female students joining engineering as a whole, but particularly in MSE.
Okay, so let's move on. For A level, for A level holders, what would be a safe 3H2 H1 grade?
A safe. If you're talking UAS points, it's probably easier because the university doesn't really just look at H2s. They have this UAS score. The cutoff point will probably be somewhere between 70 and 75. I really don't know any more accurate than that. So 75 would be safe. 70 would probably be borderline. That's probably my best estimate, but it varies every year.
Okay. So, but regardless, I feel that it's great if you can just try to apply for material science if you're interested in this, and we'll see how it goes. Right. All right. Let's move on. Do we need to learn coding? I think if you look at the slide now, you see a coding module. Right?
Well, it's not really coding. You learn. There's a computing module where you actually learn Python. I don't know whether I would count Python as coding as not. I mean, I was a traditional graduate school. We had to learn real coding. I had to learn assembly and things like that. So you will learn some computing language. If you're interested in learning coding, you certainly can, but it won't be forced on you. You do need to know basic, like LabVIEW or MATLAB or Python nowadays if you're going to have a career in engineering. But you don't need the depth unless that's where your interest lies.
Okay, so let's move on to the next. Okay, what is the example? What is an things are moving too fast. So what is an example of a typical FYP? Right. So how is it like?
Maybe one of the alumni would be willing to answer. Oh, you could yourself, Vincent, right? You did an FYP.
Well, I can, but I think it'll be better if it comes from one of the students. See the students. Oh yeah, they have something on. Okay. Well, I guess FYP is like as the name suggests, the final year project where our students have to do a project by themselves. So it's an individual work. So what it entails is basically, you'll be tasked, or rather you select a research topic that you're interested in. Then you work with a prof, let's say, right? So you work with that prof, and then you will then he or she will teach you anything and everything under the sun regarding research. How do we read a research article? And how do we perform logical thinking? How do we design the experiments? So maybe I'll just break it down to a few parts. The first stage of FYP is basically a more literature review kind of a research. So nothing too tedious. It's more of reading and understanding the topic of interest. So it's more of training you to analyze and critique a research paper. Right, so that's basically the first part. So once you have the knowledge, then you move on to the second part where you start off with formulating a solution to the given problem. So once you have the formulation, then you will try to synthesize the material, right? So you need to prepare the material based on the knowledge that you have gained from our material science modules, of course, and you'll be under guidance by the professors. Right. So once that is done, then you move on of course, to the third stage where I call it the material characterizations. So that's actually the pretty cool part where you start to use a lot of big machines like the electron microscopes and whatnot. So for me, I'm fascinated by microscopes, so it's great. And then the last stage is where you start to apply your material in the application. All right, so that is also very interesting. I mean, some people have find it more interesting than material characterizations, but for me, yes, it's interesting. So if you have an application and you have to perform testing, and how do we fit that material into that application to make it viable, and in the future, hopefully, if you can make it more practical in that sense. So, and that's basically, to me, a typical FYP is. And of course, the very last stage is to write the report and presentation. I think that's a given. Yeah, that's my take on it. Anyone wants to comment on this? No way. Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Thanks. I think,
Right,
I think the FYP, just quickly add, it's really like, you will have many different, based on your research interests, you can select these different projects, and then you can work either in energy, sustainability, it can be in AI, where you learn materials discovery, and so it's quite broad. There's no real typical FYP, but what's common to all FYP is that you get to work at a where you start to apply the knowledge you learn from year 1 to 3, right? For your FYP, and you get to work closely with the faculty.
Great. I think that's actually quite interesting. So let's move on. What are the differences in contents between doing a bachelor degree in material science and a second degree in material science under the DTP?
Ben, do you know what this question? Do you know answer to this question?
If you did it as a second major, there wouldn't actually be very much difference. You probably wouldn't have to do 2 EPPs beginning, but if you do a second major, then you would do the majority of the, as it implies, if it's a double degree, then you would basically do the major components of both your first choice, say if that was BME, and your second choice, that was MSE, or if it was the other way around, if your first choice was MSc, you do all the MSc modules, and then if you did BME, you would do all the BME modules. The only difference is there would be some double counting. Some of the elective modules would be allowed to count towards both, because BME does some materials related modules. So some of our materials related modules could count towards your biomedical part of your degree. But you would basically cover, if you're doing the double degree program, you cover both. You don't have very much free time because all your UEM space is then used up. So that's basically what double degree means, that you do both degrees.
Okay. So let's move on to the last question, I guess. So is cell surface engineering or tissue engineering a possible area of specialization with material science and engineering major? That's been the biomedical material specialization and BME minor.
This one, it's a good question. Then maybe you want to take a bit about it. But I think, I think you will learn about cells and biology, right? Even in a course within MSE. In fact, biomedical engineering students take that class, the biomaterials class that we actually I taught with Vincent as well. So then you want to answer the part about possible minor, BME minor?
Well, you could do a BME minor, or you can do it's a second major. The minors in the modules and specializations, they're not as specific as cell surface engineering. You would perhaps do one course on that. If that was really your area of interest, where you really focus on that would be in your final year project. Okay, that's another thing. If you do a double major, if it's both in engineering, you might only do one final year project. Your final year project would be, well, perhaps supervised by both someone from BME and MSE. So that's, you would, if you really want to do self-surface engineering, you would learn it in your modules, the part of the specialization or the double degree, but you really focused on it on an FYP. You're not going to, there aren't enough modules to give you a specialization in self-surface engineering.
Okay, so let's move on to the second last question. Is double major allowable under eScholars program?
I'm not certain on that. You would probably have to check with the eScholars program. I know it would be very, very difficult to do. The eScholars program is basically compressing it into 3 years. So to do the double major would be difficult, particularly with timetabling. That tends to be really, in theory, often you can do this double major, but often then you find you have module clashes. So you'd have to check with eScholars program office whether it's allowed, but it would be difficult. I'm not sure I'd advise you to try and force a double degree within 3 years. I think that would be very tough. They might allow you to do it in 3.5 years, so you would perhaps talk to the eScholars program on that.
Okay, so yeah, like what Prof. Legwood was saying, is going to be very challenging. But at the same time, I guess if you were able to do this, it'll be very fulfilling, actually. All right, I guess the last question here is will the order of choice of course affect chances of getting in, right? So like, will it change the rank points required?
Okay, this really only applies if you choose engineering first. I now know that engineering gives you an extra point if you choose engineering first. It doesn't actually affect which engineering course, or actually I should not call it engineering, College of Design and Engineering. It's going to take me a while to get used to the fact that I'm of engineering. So if you choose engineering as your first choice, then it will give you that extra point. But it doesn't matter whether you put MSc or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering first, because we're all going to have the same cutoff point. So you should get your first choice of the engineering subjects. So choosing engineering first gives you an extra point, whereas if you chose economics and then engineering, you wouldn't get that point. My battery's just running out, but the order that you put the engineering subjects doesn't matter.
Okay, great. So well, I mean, we can still have we may have some time for more questions, but before that, right, could I ask all of you here to help us, give us some feedbacks on this session? I know it's a bit long, but please help us, right? Scan this QR code. I believe my colleague, she's going to enter the link in the chat. So just go to the link, or you can just scan this QR code. Please give us your feedback on this e-open house. All right. So I'll just maybe just put on this slide for a while and see whether we have any other further questions. And last but not least, of course, like we mentioned in the very early part of this presentation, is that we are going to have a raffle. So we are going to announce the raffle winner very soon. Just stick with us for a while more. Okay. And at the same time, please do the survey. So Edie, is the raffle ready, the winner?
Yep, hold on, let me just share my screen. Okay, and then
Thanks.
I'll just show you guys. It's just a free random wheel name generator that I put together. So, okay, I'll spin the wheel. Oh, okay. We have a winner here. I think, sorry, I couldn't key in the Chinese name character, but I saw that name. It's a Chinese character name that's in the participant list. I'm gonna pin you in a while so that you can actually, just email us your details, and
Okay,
then we'll
so
get back to you with the price. Yep.
okay.
So email to askmse@nus.edu.sg.
Yeah. Edie, can
Can.
you just share the email again, just in case? For the
Can.
winner, please
I think I will
contact
private
us.
DM you via the Zoom chat right now. You should receive my.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, I guess we can conclude.
Yeah. Well, we do have one more thing. We have a in-person open house. Vincent, you want to
Wow.
briefly share about that?
Sorry.
You want to talk about the in-person open house that's happening next?
Yep. So we have a in-person open house next week, 5th of March. So if you are keen on joining us as a material science student, then I guess it's really great if we can have you down to our booth, and maybe you can take a look at what are the prototypes, what are the machines that we are going to handle, going to learn, and how and the games that we can actually do with materials. I bet it will be a lot of fun. So if you can, please, I think the registration link is available in the chat. So please go on to the chat, look for the link, which is Eventbrite. So go on in, and but the problem here is that the registration has closed, but of course you still can join the wait list. Okay, you still can join the wait list. All right, just a couple more seconds. Okay, with that, I think I'd like to conclude the whole event for the morning session. So I thank all of you all for joining us on a Sunday morning. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Thanks for joining. Thank you. So if you have any questions, of course, you can feel free to stay back and ask us anything. It's a good opportunity here, actually. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Okay, I think still got 5.
Yeah. So the DHS is here if you want to give any information. But
Yeah, I think I chat privately to ask if you could actually just, pardon me, the ambulance. Anybody? I think we'll have to end the session, is it?
yeah,
We have to.
there's a few people here. If you all want to speak, you
Yeah.
all can speak. If not, we can.
Yeah,
We'll stay
if
around
not,
a
we
bit
will.
until everybody leaves.
Let's just wait for a couple of minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes. If they don't respond, then we just end the session then. So thanks everyone for attending. It's really great to have you all here. Hope to see you all during the open house. Great, thanks.
I think I private DM the student earlier already. And just reach out to us. Yep.
I guess we can close the
End the
session.
session.
We end the session. Then perhaps we need to
We'll prepare for the next one.
Get
Yeah.
together and then work on the timing issue. Okay.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. See you all then. It's 2:30, right?
Yes,
Not 1:30.
2:30 to 4. Yeah, we mistook the
I think
timing.
I got it wrong then. Please, can you please?
It's okay, it's okay. I
you
think I
have you
already emailed to the
informed the
participants already.
or you have informed all the panelists, right, regarding that?
Yes. The
Okay,
main.
thank you.
Okay. We will.
Thanks. See you all in the afternoon, man. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. Bye.